This was kind of rolled out over the course of the week, I guess, to seize on the news cycle.
Yes,
How did it work today?
I think it started with Obama not wanting to endorse a candidate if this was going to be an open field, right? He didn't endorse Joe Biden in 2020, much to Joe Biden's consternation in the hotly contested primary. And I think the Obamas wanted to give it a beat and just make sure that it was going to be Harris as the nominee, and we weren't headed towards a contested convention. And then as the week went on, I think it was just, one huge news cycle after the next, And they certainly, as we can see in that video, they wanted their endorsement to make to make an impact.
Sure.
And that's what they did this morning.
Interesting mechanism with the phone call. We don't actually see them talking to her.
Yeah.
It's kind of a new wrinkle for a presidential campaign.
If you remember back from the 2020 cycle, there was a similar scene that played out when Joe Biden called to ask her. She was out for a jog and called to ask her for to be his running mate. So
that's good recall. So maybe we're playing the greatest hits here for Kamala Harris.
I guess so. Everything about this rollout, they're so compressed. So they need to take every moment that they can to make a splash. And this was just yet another way, certainly much more so than just a tweet or
exactly.
An email.
We're getting so used to that. I mean, my goodness, Joe Biden dropped out of the race on letterhead. We didn't see him until several days went by. So now one of the next big tasks will be choosing a running mate. Of course, Megan, we know that vetting is underway, and we keep seeing shortlists that seem to get a little bit longer each time, which gives you a sense of where we might be in the cycle. One of the names that's being bandied about is Senator Mark Kelly. And I bring this up because you have a particular specialty when it comes to Congress. Would a Kamala Harris administration really want to dislodge a senator from Arizona with such tight margins right now?
Well, they would be able to, because the Democratic governor would appoint, presumably, a Democrat to replace Mark Kelly were he to be the vice president. Until 2026, and then there would be a special election at that time. Arizona has been trending more and more blue. We'll see what happens, with this election cycle. But there certainly would be room. They wouldn't be taking a risk, at least in the short term. And he brings a lot. He would bring a lot to the ticket.
It's quite a story that she would have to tell with him.
Absolutely.
And look, I'm just grabbing one out of the pile here. If you're with us on Bloomberg TV, you see the 6 that are being bandied about. It seems that Governor Shapiro is kind of leading the pack right now. Is that safe to say?
I would say he's certainly up there, given all the scuttlebutt we're hearing and everyone else. That doesn't mean that he's a shoo-in by any chance, but as a Pennsylvania native myself, I'm always Pennsylvania is the big kahuna in this election.
You and I both know that's the one you need to win, right?
Absolutely.
Great to have you back, as
Thank
always.
you.
Megan Scully reporting for Bloomberg here on Balance of Power as we turn to the battle against inflation that seems to be going pretty well. As the Fed's preferred price gauge rising at a tame pace in June, keeping hopes for a September rate cut alive, some even raising their hands for a cut next week, though I don't think Anna Wong is going to go along with that. Bloomberg's Anna Wong is with us at the table, chief economist, Bloomberg Economics. Anna, it's great to see you. Does this not make the trend that the Fed needs, the data-dependent Fed? Why not cut next week?
Yeah, because on a 3-month annualized basis, core PCE is going at 2.3% right now, which is very close to the Fed's 2% target. However, the Fed has been tricked by that measure before. Recall last year, actually, the 3-month annualized pace of inflation is actually even lower than that. But then soon after, the inflation resurged, and then, we went through the whole up and down again. So I think the Fed is just being extra cautious this time. And but by September, the Fed will have 2 more inflation data releases, which should provide enough confidence for them to make the move in September.
So September is what we have our eyes on, but there, of course, is a meeting next week. How will they telegraph this? Will it come in the statement, in the news conference afterward when Jay Powell talks to Michael McKee? How's this going to work?
Yes, I think it will be in both. And the Fed is very good at tweaking the policy statement in a very minor way and yet signaling a lot. For example, they could simply acknowledge that they will do whatever they need to sustain the expansion. in projecting the future path of Fed funds rate, they acknowledge some uncertainty. And as long as they acknowledge some uncertainty or they talk about a subtle change in their assessment of the risks, balance of risks,
yes,
I think those are all subtle hints that would sound more dovish to the people who monitor the Fed language very.
Of course, the jobs report comes after the Fed meeting next week. That could be the data point that completes the puzzle here, no? What are you looking for on Friday?
Yeah, so even if the unemployment rate does not further increase as it did in the past 3 months, in fact, in the past 3 months, the unemployment rate was rising persistently. But even if it stays at 4.1%, a well-known recession identification trigger would be very close to triggering. And I think the Fed is, while their baseline is that they don't think there will be a recession this year, that rule has hold true. The recession identification rule, the SOM rule, has been true for over 70 years. And for it to be getting to 0.47, where the 0.5 is the trigger, would be perilously close to it. And I think the Fed wouldn't want to flirt with that kind of with the recession right now. So I think a lot of people think the Fed should cut next week. They still want to see some more inflation data. Ultimately, they will cut in September.